Remember when we used to make fun of China for being like, they just had so much smog everywhere? All their cities were covered in smog. Well, I think we should kind of turn that into more self-deprecating humor because newsflash, we aren't much better. In fact, we might be worse at this point. So a new report came out from the American Lung Association that half of all children live in areas with toxic air quality, dangerous air quality. Like, it's not that surprising to me because I last year covered a video how half of all Americans, this was another report that the American Lung Association had released, that all Americans, or not all, half of all Americans live in like poor air quality. So let's go ahead and get into the full details of this article. This is from The Guardian. Nearly half of U.S. children are breathing dangerous levels of air pollution, report warns. Nearly half of children in the United States are breathing dangerous levels of air pollution, according to a new report, as experts warn Donald Trump's expansive rollback of protections will make the situation worse. It found that 33.5 million children in the U.S., 46% of those under 18, live in areas that receive a failing grade for at least one measure of air pollution. The report also found that 7 million children, or 10% of all children in the U.S., live in communities that have failed all three measures. What an absolute failure in the country that is supposed to be the number one economy in the world, the number one country in the world. We just have so many, just clear failures. Like the other day when I was covering the upgrades to our air traffic control system, it's crazy that we got to this point where our entire air traffic control system is held together by bubble gum and duct tape and hasn't been updated since like the 70s. Just another failure, and what just greed and the just accumulation of wealth at the top and unwilling to do like anything, this austerity, it's really starting to show. The report further found that communities of color are disproportionately exposed to unhealthy air. As a result, they are more likely to live with one or more chronic health conditions that make them more vulnerable to pollution, including asthma, diabetes, and heart disease. Although people of color make up 42.1% of the U.S. population, they represent 54.2% of those living in counties with at least one failing grade, the report noted. It also found that a person of color is 2.42 times more likely than a white person to live in a community that fails all three pollution measures. Now, I'd like to see more on that. Obviously, they could definitely kind of be by design, but I believe a lot of people of color also live in cities. I think cities and the industrial areas are really the centers of some of this toxic air, dangerous air. And that kind of just makes sense because you have a bunch of white freaking inbreds living out in the countryside, just doing all that kind of fun stuff. And they're they get a little bit of respite from the toxic air when you live in the middle of quite literally nowhere. Anyways, smog remains the most widespread pollutant affecting Americans' health. Between 2022 and 2024, 38% of the U.S. population, approximately 129.1 million people, were exposed to ozone levels that put their health at risk. This marks the highest number recorded in the ALA's report in 6 years and a 3.9 million increase from the previous year. The regions most affected by high ozone levels include southwestern states from California to Texas, as well as much of the Midwest. This is mainly driven by smoke from Canada's 2023 wildfires, crossing into the U.S., along with high temperatures and weather patterns that favored ozone formation in 2023 and 2024, particularly in southern states. More broadly, the report found that climate change is intensifying ozone pollution by boosting precursor emissions and creating atmospheric conditions such as higher temperatures and lower wind speeds that allow pollutants to build up and ozone to form. The report also highlighted data centers as a growing source of air pollution. In recent years, data centers have consumed roughly 4.4% of the total of U.S. electricity, a figure that could rise to as much as 12% within the next decade. God, what a waste of energy, man. What an absolute waste. And just an environmental disaster that these data centers are going to have, just like them alone, just ignoring everything else, like coal plants and just all that stuff. Their impact stems largely from reliance on regional electricity grids, where fossil fuels such as methane gas and coal still account for a large portion of generation, the report said. In addition, many data centers use dozens of large diesel power backup generators, which emit carcinogenic particulate matter. That's wonderful. Great. Since returning to office last year, the Trump administration has initiated at least 70 actions to roll back environmental and climate protections. Among them is the loosening of regulations on power plants that limit mercury and other hazardous air toxins. Other rollbacks include overturning limits on major air pollution sources, disbanding EPA advisory committees on air quality, and ending the practice of estimating the monetary value of lives saved by limiting fine particulate matter and ozone while still calculating costs to companies. So yeah, they basically said, like, we don't really care about the cost of human lives, but we really just need to know, like, the cost to our bottom line and maximizing profits. Like public health, people living in the vicinities of these coal plants or whatever. Yeah, fuck them. Like, God. And there's no sign that, like, when we cover the reports next year that it's going to be any better. In fact, it's going to be much worse. Although it was marginally improving, this is what it looked like even, like, after Biden's decent Green New Deal push. Obviously, this stuff takes time. But since the start of Trump's second term, we've been covering how they've been ripping apart the EPA, or more like the EPA is ripping itself apart. They pretty much destroyed all the aspects of the Green New Deal, all the grants and subsidies to EVs, solars, wind, loosening of regulations, like new chemical manufacturing plants and like new coal plants. They get these year-long exemptions from some of the harshest environmental regulations. Like, we are relentlessly increasing coal and gas production. They repealed the greenhouse gas endangerment finding from like 2009. They've gotten rid of the continuous emission monitoring systems from power plants. Like, it's a mess. Like, one thing that I just want to, like, get out there. Okay. We don't have to agree that climate change is real. I've given up on that battle a long time ago. But, like, can we at least agree as, like, human beings who live on this earth that clean air is nice? Clean drinking water is also nice. Like, can't we just come to the agreement, like, screw climate change? Can't we just come to the agreement that a clean environment, clean air, clean water, clean food, can't we just agree that that is just objectively good and that doesn't need to be politicized? Like, it's crazy, but of course not. We need to maximize profit over the environment. More importantly, maximize profit over life, because capitalism. Anyways, that's all I have for this one. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below, and I will see you in the next one. If you made it to this point in the video, I just want to give a special thank you. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like button down below. And if you really enjoyed it, maybe consider hitting that subscribe button while you're down there. I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section. I will try to reply to any and all comments that I can. Until next time, watch that video on screen.